Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for December 2nd, 2025. Thank you so much for joining me. My first Skraby Show since the Thanksgiving break. You know, this end of the year is going to get a little hectic because my last day working of the year, we're going to do the show on December 19th, and then we're done for the year, which the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, we've decided instead of, taking a week off, we decided to take the 2 weeks off because number one, I have a lot of vacation days built up and I never use them. So they encourage me to use them. And number two, it just is nice to have a full reset before you get into the new year. And I'm going to need that full reset because when we get back, football's basically, football regular season is basically over. So we're going to have 5 days a week of 4-hour shows, Gwen and Chris, and then a Skraby show. So things are going to get crazy in the new year, but I was happy to have the Thanksgiving break because it just recharged my batteries a little bit. I got to do a lot of things that, I haven't had time to do as of late. And by the way, I should say we did get our Zach Bryan winner. So if you're on the phone right now, I just got them before we came on. And I'm sorry, but we will have more tickets to give away throughout the week. Not to Zach Bryan per se, but we do have some tickets to give away. So thank you for calling, and congratulations to Brian for winning those tickets. But anyway, back to Thanksgiving. I watched a lot of stuff over Thanksgiving, and I played a lot of video games over Thanksgiving. I played a bunch of Spider-Man. Now, this is the old Spider-Man from I think it's 2018 or 2019. And the beauty about me not having a video game system for about, 12, 13 years is that all of these games are brand new to me and I get to buy them for like $6.99. So that's what I've been doing, is just buying the old games that I've always wanted to play and then playing them and loving them. Next game up, it's going to take me a long time because it took me a long time to download, but Red Dead Redemption 2. I've already done the first one. But I've heard Red Dead lives up. So I'm going to go with it. But I also, it's all about family. I used to not be much of a family guy just because I was a drinker and so I like to be alone. But now that I have nieces and nephews, it's interesting to get older and see how they handle holidays. Like Thanksgiving was so important to them. Like it's a holiday, you get the turkey, and so it kind of puts me in that mood again. Same with Christmas. Like it's always fun to see kids before Christmas and how excited they get and all of that. So it was a good time. It was perfect for me. I actually didn't eat much bad food because I did I did go into the weekend thinking I was gonna have to hit the gym hard this week. But I actually followed my SD fat loss goals and didn't eat too much, so that's good. I watched Stranger Things. I don't know if anybody out there watched Stranger Things. It came out, I believe, on Thanksgiving Day. 4 episodes. They have more coming out in a month. Then they have the final 2 coming out in the new year. But I know that people are going to hate on Stranger Things season 5. I know that people are going to hate it because, basically people just want the show to be the show. But the show has changed over the years, and it's more of I would say Stranger Things is not so much a sci-fi show anymore. I mean, it is, but it's more of an action show. It's actually become like a pretty fun action show. I just didn't like how they took forever from the 4th season to the 5th season. Just way too long. And I forgot that all the things that happened. And so I was going to go back and watch. I didn't. And I just watched their little 2-minute recap. Anyway, that's enough on Stranger Things. Dominic says, did you just call something from 2018 old? Yes, I did. Because that is in video game years, a 2018 video game is ancient. Gonzo says vintage with Vintage is good, but 2018, I think Tony's kids say when they're referencing the 80s and 90s, it's like the 1900s is what they say. Anyway, it's very strange. Very strange. All right, we will talk about sports, I promise. We're going to talk about those Fernando being traded national reports, and I'm going to give you, my thought process when I see these reports. I also, it's not so much about Lane Kiffin, it's about what LSU did, and we're going to go through his contract, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I titled the YouTube today. If you want to watch on YouTube, you can just go to at the Skraby Show, or go to Gwen and Chris, or not, I'm sorry, at the Skraby Show, or go to 97.3 The Fan, Facebook 97.3 The Fan, X 97.3 The Fan, SD, and then also the Odyssey app. Just type in 97.3 The Fan. You'll be able to listen there. But I titled the YouTube today, "If Only We Could All Be Paid Like Pro Athletes." And the reason that I titled it that way is because I had I saw the news yesterday of the Mets signing Devin Williams to a 3-year, $51 million deal. And as a guy who had Devin Williams on his fantasy team last year, not saying I'm connecting the two, but I'm saying I watched a guy who struggled throughout the year. So I'm going to go through, like, why do teams give players these big contracts coming off of bad years? So we'll go through that. Also, Dylan Cease's 7-year, $210 million contract. Is it a terrible contract? We'll go through that. And then finally, we have the Daily Gripe at the end of the show. And if you are if you're a bettor out there, you will never believe what some NFL bettor is hoping happens. And before the year, nobody thought it could happen. And now everybody thinks, or this person is praying for it to happen. So we'll go over that at the end of the show. But Fernando being traded and the national reports. Now, we talked about this on Gwen and Chris, because Chris brought it up that he's been seeing Fernando Tatis Jr.'s name in the rumor mill by a lot of different reporters, and just his name keeps bouncing around the interwebs as someone that the Padres could trade. Now, the argument from those national reporters that he could be traded comes from like a thought that because the Padres may need to cut payroll, or because the Padres may need to do something with their roster in order to make it more team friendly in the payroll department, then they would have to trade someone like Fernando Tatis Jr., who's already under long-term contract, and he is in a contract that's kind of team friendly for some of the prices that we're seeing around baseball. And who knows what that contract's going to look like at the end. But for right now, I think the Padres are getting a steal with Fernando. And I know for a fact there will be, there's 30 teams in baseball, 29 other teams lining up to try and get Fernando Tatis Jr. So I when I see these reports, immediately I look at the name to see if it's, or look at the Twitter name to see if it's true or if it's the right account. I immediately look at the name of the reporter to see which reporter is reporting this, because that tells me a lot too. But when they say, I've had sources tell me that Fernando Tatis Jr. could be traded, all of this thought, probably, we're going to go with this thought. Fernando Tatis Jr., I've heard sources say inside the organization, Fernando Tatis Jr. could be traded this offseason. That's the statement we're going to go with. I think that it all probably starts somewhere with truth, but very little truth. Like, they may text a guy within the Padres organization and say, hey, any truth to the rumor that, or any truth to the thought that Fernando may be traded over this offseason? And maybe their source texts back, it's an extreme long shot, but never say never. Let's just say they text back that. Now the reporter is going to take it and they're going to run with it, because now they have some sort of thought within the organization, but they can stretch that thought. They can make that thought what they want it, because if that person says it's not going, or it's not likely to happen, but never say never, if that was the response, then there's, I guess, some sort of truth in that reporting. But here is where I think they do this, the national reporters do this the most, is when they call out teams and when they say crazy things, not crazy, but when they say things that they know are going to get a fan base riled up. That is what they want. They want the local fans to be upset and to then go to their social media account and share their video of them saying this or share whatever. And they want you to comment and engage. And they, again, they could always say, yes, there was truth to the report that I made. But mainly to me, the best way for us to get back at the national reporters who just kind of willy-nilly throw names out there and toy with our Padres emotions is to give them no attention at all. It's very hard to do. I get it. It's very hard to do. But you can't give them attention, because if you give them attention, you're feeding them what they need to grow. And so my advice out there is to not interact with these posts, because then their what is it called? Engagement is down. Their views are down. So if we're going to combat this in some way, I think the way to do that is to not, do a silent boycott of that sort of national reporter that doesn't really care if they upset fans' feelings. Because when you say to trade Fernando Tatis Jr., like, that obviously is going to ruffle some feathers. That obviously was going to anger some people, and they know this. I've talked to a few national reporters. Now, these national reporters aren't necessarily people that we have talked about today, but they've observed from afar how some of these reports come about, and it's just all about the social media engagement. So when I see these reports, I'll talk about them because they're interesting to talk about, but I also take it with a grain of salt, because I just don't believe that the Padres are looking to trade their franchise player. Manny Machado could be their franchise player, but we all know that Fernando Tatis Jr. is the franchise player. And it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If the Padres end up, trading a big name player, and it wasn't made it was only made to save payroll, then I think we have a gripe, because we were told that this team's going to operate like it has been, and this team's going to operate and try to win a World Series. So if that's the case, if something does happen this offseason, then we can revisit it. But and I probably shouldn't do this, just because all large corporate sports organizations, like not just the Padres, are not very good at giving the full truth of things. But I guess you just have to kind of trust them and see what happens this offseason. That's going to be my thing this offseason, is we're just going to have to sit back and trust and watch and react accordingly. So, in summation, Fernando Tatis Jr. being in national reports, being connected to being traded, I don't believe, because I don't think these national reporters know anything either. They just have one sort of morsel of information and they run with it. So don't worry, people. Don't worry. And if we do have to talk about something that happens that's crazy, we will. We will. When we get back, I want to talk about Devin Williams and his 3-year, $51 million contract, and we'll compare it to another pitcher that we're all familiar with, because I got to figure out why these teams cry like they have no money and then they give out money like this. So you're listening to the Skraby Show. We'll talk about the contract situation when we get back on 97.3 The Fan.
This is the story of
I know everybody's sick about hearing about Lane Kiffin at this point, and I'm kind of sick about hearing about Lane Kiffin as well. But at the same time, I think there is still stuff to talk about. Like, I wish, I wish I didn't have to say it, but college football is like maybe one of the furthest things from my mind these days when I'm thinking about something to watch, and it all has to do with the money that is at stake all the time, and it all has to do with I am an understanding person, and I try not to be a selfish person. And so when people are chasing money and kind of being selfish, and I know that that's a tough thing to say about Lane Kiffin, who's just trying to do what's best for himself and his family. There's a certain it's hard to say for me to say, because I've never made $10 million in a year, which is what he was making at Ole Miss, and now he's making 13 million at LSU. But at a certain point, like, don't you have enough money? Like, isn't your pride a little bit like, isn't your um don't you want to build something instead of just jump from team to team and try? I don't know. It drives me nuts, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But we do have Devin Williams getting 3 years, $51 million from the Mets. And so when I saw this, as someone who had him in fantasy baseball last year, I was like, really? Like, he's a good pitcher, sure, or he's a good closer, sure, but they really committed $51 million to him over 3 years after the season that he had. And so I asked myself, are teams paying because they think that the player is worth it, or because they don't have anyone else and they don't want another team to get them? Now, I don't think that part is as true as the first part. I would think that teams are paying because they think they're worth it, but I just don't understand the contracts. Devin Williams was not a great reliever last year for the New York Yankees. He blew 4 saves. He only had 18 on the year. He had a 4.79 ERA. He was 4-6, his record. And I know we don't do WAR a lot, but it helps my argument right now, so I'll say it. But negative 0.3 WAR. So that's what Devin Williams did last year, and he got 3 years, $51 million. Now let's put him up against Robert Suarez, who is a free agent as well. And if I'm seeing these Devin Williams numbers correctly, that means that Robert Suarez is going to get more money than Devin Williams, because when you look at it, Robert Suarez, he too also had a 4-6 record, but he had a 2.3 WAR. He had 2.97 ERA. He pitched in 70 games. He had 40 saves, and his whip was under 1.904. He pitched in 69 and 2/3 innings. Devin Williams only pitched in 62 innings. He had a 1.129 whip. This is what I don't understand. A guy has the worst season of his career so far, and he gets rewarded with a massive contract that is not quite on par with the contract that the Astros gave Josh Hader. I think that was 5 for 95, and it's $19 million a year, if I remember correctly. This is 3 years, 17. Let me get the calculator out before I look stupid. And I did this math earlier, and then I forgot about what the number was. And people are like, you can't do 51 divided by 3. Try doing it on the radio. $17 million a year. I had it right. $17 million a year. So he's making in total $6 million less over the next 3 years than Josh Hader. Does that make sense to anyone? I just don't understand why teams sink money. And I might have to look at the Mets for this, because the Mets are a team that just spends money, and it doesn't really seem to matter what happens when they spend that money, and they have an owner that can do it, when Steve Cohen. So KG says that's mostly it, Skraby. Tell me what you're referencing. But if you look at Dylan Cease, now I've seen people say the Dylan Cease contract that he got with the Blue Jays, 7 years, $210 million. I've seen $30 million a year. $30 million a year. I see people saying this is a bad contract. But I think in this case, Dylan Cease is coming off of the worst year of his career, or one of the tougher years of his career. But what he has done over the last 5 years, I think, is why he got the money that he did. Because we've said before, we'll say it again, your best ability is your availability. And Dylan Cease is extremely, extremely available. Because I went back, and from 2020 to 2025, among starting pitchers, Dylan Cease has started the most games over that span. He started 174 games from 2020 to 2025. The next closest, Jose Barrios, 170, and then Logan Webb, 169. Kevin Gausman, 168. So they're going to have two longevity guys in their starting rotation. But Dylan Cease, number one in games started over the last 5 seasons. If you look at his strikeouts, number one in strikeouts over the last 5 seasons, 1,150 strikeouts. Best in baseball. Next up, Kevin Gausman. So the Blue Jays are looking at a pretty good starting rotation with those two guys. But what I'm bringing this up for is because, like, at least Dylan Cease getting the 7 years, $210 million, at least I have some track record of him, at least I have a track record of him being available. And so I can wrap my head around a Dylan Cease contract, because I do think while he was here in San Diego, although last year wasn't our favorite year, I do think him taking the ball every 5 days and just kind of counting on it is worth something. And it's definitely worth it to teams, because he was he might have not been great certain days last year, but for the most part, you knew that Dylan Cease was going to take the ball every 5 days. And it makes sense to me when you see that he has done the most, or he started the most games in the last 5 years. He has the most strikeouts in the last 5 years. Let me go back and see about innings pitched, because I did not check that out, but let's see. Innings pitched, Dylan Cease is 9th in that list, 942 and a third innings pitched. Logan Webb, actually, 1,022 and 2/3 innings pitched. He's already been extended by the Giants, so they don't have to worry about that. But when you're signing a Dylan Cease, you might be signing a guy with an ERA anywhere between 3.5 and 5, but you're going to sign up for at least 30 starts a year, and you're signing up for an average, I would say, about 7-8 strikeouts a game. So that's what they're paying for. And with the way that the Blue Jays ended their season last year, basically being a strike away for an out away from a World Series title, 2 outs away, or whatever it was before Miguel Rojas hit that home run, you see that they're ready to put in all their chips now and try to get this title next year. Trevor did say Cease was reliable, did throw a great no-no. That is true. That is true. Rod says Blue Jays making moves and not waiting for anyone in regards to free agency. That is true as well. Blue Jays are just going for it, which is smart, because they were right there on the doorstep last year. So this is the second time I'm going to say this word. In summation, I don't understand how Devin Williams gets 3 years and $51 million. I just don't understand it, because we hear all the time about teams complaining about how much players make. And then you go out and you spend all this money on a guy who is coming off the worst year of his career. Now, is Devin Williams going to be terrible for the rest of his career? I don't think so. And I wouldn't bet on that. But at the same time, like when I titled it, If Only We Could All Be Paid Like Pro Athletes, like I would love to get a raise, or I would love to get a lucrative deal after being mediocre for a year. It just doesn't happen in the real world, which is where, sports, obviously, you're one of the best at your job in the world. So I can understand why you're paid so well. But at the same time, I feel like you should be paid for what you have done. And what Devin Williams has done is be a good closer, but fall apart. over the last couple of years. Also, Devin Williams didn't seem like he liked it in New York, and he chose another New York team. But maybe that's because he didn't feel like he was going to get any money like that elsewhere. I don't know. But when I see things like that, I think, what in the heck are these teams doing? And it's, to me, wasting money. It's just, that's money that could be put in somewhere else. Because I think the Mets think they're going to lose Edwin Diaz, who is a free agent again. And Edwin Diaz was paid a lot of money. I also saw Robert Suarez connected to the Mets. But now that they have Devin Williams, I'm not so sure they're going to do that, which leaves one team. I'm not going to say which team, but if Robert Suarez goes to that team, I may cry. I may cry because that would be hard to watch. It would be hard to watch Robert Suarez in that uniform for the next few years, but I mean, it's a need of theirs. They need a closer. And I'm not even going to say which team again. So everybody knows what I'm talking about. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Does anybody else have those thoughts when they see these contracts? Does anybody else think that Devin Williams is being overpaid? Let me know at Matt Skraby or go on the chat at the Skraby Show on YouTube, and you will be able to find the broadcast. All right, let's go to the Lane Kiffin stuff when we get back. Also, that bettor who did something before the season that I would say was crazy, but it actually it might end up being okay for them. So that and the Daily Gripe, and we are done with our Tuesday Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and Wood.
Final segment here on the Skraby Show for Tuesday. Thank you for joining me. If you missed any of the Gwen and Chris show, you can go to 973thefansd.com / 973thefansd.com and then go to the podcast section and you will be able to find it there. We had a pretty good show, I would say. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I thought it was decent. I did. All guests on 97.3 The Fan join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. Okay, let's do this Lane Kiffin LSU stuff. And this won't surprise anyone, but I am not a fan of places like LSU that will do anything they can to get someone to be their coach. And not to mention, LSU just got done with a big old issue where the governor of the state had to step in because of the guaranteed money that was being given to Brian Kelly walking out the door for being fired. But then they gave Lane Kiffin the same thing they just didn't want to pay Brian Kelly. This makes no sense. It makes no sense. And I know that Tony said on the show, how is Lane Kiffin going to go into a kid's living room and sit down and say, hey, you come play for me? I got your back. I'm going to be there all 4 years. You can't, because who knows? Now, I don't think at this point Lane Kiffin is going to be bolting for other jobs. Maybe the NFL, if they came a calling again. I don't think he's going to bolt because he has maybe one of the top 3 jobs in college football, I mean, I would think Alabama, LSU, and I'm definitely forgetting another team that I'm just not thinking of right now. But those are the top 2 jobs. If you're in an SEC school, those are the jobs right there. And here are the specifics of Lane Kiffin's contract. And to say, and Lane Kiffin, this is where he bothers me. He says he doesn't even know the details of his contract. That cannot be true. I don't think anyone is going to go into this and not know if they're getting a better deal than what they're leaving. I think what Lane Kiffin really wanted to know was, are you guys going, LSU, are you guys going to provide me with enough money to buy my players each and every year so that we can compete for a national championship? And the answer was yes. LSU reportedly has guaranteed, or not guaranteed, but said that they're going to give Lane Kiffin's program $25 to $30 million a year in NIL to distribute among players, which is probably, haven't checked, probably the most in college football. But, I mean, here are the specifics. 7 years, $91 million, $13 million a year, which is tied for the highest in college football. Kirk Kenny told me earlier that Kirby Smart is the number 1 paid college football coach, but he also has a little bit of a background behind him. He's won some national titles. So I think that Kirby Smart being paid as the number 1 coach in college football it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. If Lane Kiffin wins the title, LSU has to make him the highest paid head coach. So he wins the title and he gets even more money, which I understand. He won a title. But to have this as a part of your contract, like, did LSU just go into the negotiating room and say, hey, write down what you want? And they wrote down these things, slid the piece of paper over, and LSU just said, okay, we'll do that. Here is the most egregious part of this whole thing. His buyout, Lane Kiffin's buyout, is 80% of the remaining money, even if he gets a new job. Now, James Franklin, when he left Penn State, he was owed a bunch of money, but there was an offset clause. If he, got another job within a certain amount of time, then that money would be lessened, and the university wouldn't have to pay him the $50 million. The Virginia Tech would have to pay the exit fee, basically. So, but this is the whole thing again. Remember Brian Kelly that they just dealt with like less than a month ago? They're doing the whole buyout thing again. And they're giving him money even if he goes and takes another job. That is like, who's making these contracts? And I don't know if I'm more jealous of Lane Kiffin that he's getting all this stuff, or if I'm more like, I feel bad for the people who got hoodwinked by this whole thing. Because his buyout is 80% of the remaining money. Now, do I think he's going anywhere in the next 2-3 years? Probably not. Probably not. But if something does happen where Lane Kiffin doesn't get along with someone, or they don't play well and they need to fire him, they are on the hook for so much money. Also, this isn't that egregious, but it's like, again, did they just slide a piece of paper with their wish list and LSU just said, okay, you got it? Because LSU is going to honor his postseason incentives at Ole Miss. So if they win the national championship, Lane Kiffin makes money even though he wasn't even there. So this is why I can't get behind college football anymore. And it's sad to say. Like, I even think, even though the Aztecs, aren't competing for a national championship, middle tier, I don't even really want to call them middle tier program, but I guess that's what they are. A middle tier program is much better for me to pay attention and be a fan of, because there isn't as much of this whole money thing that's going down. But the fawning over Lane Kiffin has just been kind of gross. Like, do people, now I'm just ranting at this point, but this is what you get on a December 2nd show. But do people not look at the past of someone and say, I don't really want to do business with that guy? Like, I know in my past, I haven't taken jobs because I met the people I was going to work with, and I'm like, this is not going to work because I don't like that person, or they didn't seem like we would mesh or whatever. Like, Lane Kiffin has left every single job that he's had, and he's done it with no care, even though he says he cares. He might care a little bit, but I don't think he cares as much as he says he cares, which that's his thing. But like, why does no one want to stay and build a program anymore? Why does no one want to put their name on a legacy? Like, if he stayed at Ole Miss and then they go and they win a national championship, Lane Kiffin would go down as a legendary name in that program forevermore. And so I feel like sometimes that, to me, $10 million, and again, it's $10 million versus $13 million a year. To me, I could do without the extra $3 million if I could stay at a place that I liked and people liked me and I was building something. Like, it's not all about how much money you can make. And I know that's what the society that we live in, but it just makes no sense to me. College football has ruined itself. It's not Lane Kiffin's fault that college football is like this. I think it was David on the Quinn and Chris Overtime YouTube. If you don't know, we do an off-air show Mondays and Thursdays for the time being because we have football on and we wanted to give everybody more content. But and I forgot where I was going with that. I forgot where I was going with why I was saying the Overtime show. But college football just can't get out of their own way is basically what we were saying. And it's true. It's true. I don't care about all the money. I don't care about how much money a kid's making here versus going there. It has turned me away from the game. And I'm probably not the only one. I can't be the only one that is starting to fade away from the college football game because of all of the different things that have happened. Oh, this is what I was going to say. David on the YouTube commented, and I would have to go back and see the comment. I'm going to mess it up. So here's where the show stops down and gets a little unorganized for a second because I have to see. All right, here it is. And I thought it was a good comment. The whole college football system is messed up. It's odd coaches leave early, but they don't have a choice. Colleges need to have their coach in place for early signing day on Wednesday. So I bet LSU gave Lane a deadline. That's like saying NFL teams can sign their free agents for next season while they're in the middle of their season. And the whole college football schedule is messed up. I agree with that. That's exactly what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it as well as David said it. It's just a weird system. It's just a weird system. And Kirk Kenny texted me earlier, and he was saying that let's see. He was saying football signing day tomorrow is happening, and hardly anyone cares anymore because the transfer portal, which opens January 2nd, has stolen its thunder. And it's true. It's like kids who are choosing a college. It's not that big of a deal anymore for these kids coming out of high school. It's more of a big deal to find out which kid is going to be transferring where and how much money they're going to be making. It's been lost. The whole spirit in the whole spirit of everything has been lost. So that's all I got on the Lane Kiffin stuff. And hopefully we don't have to talk about Lane Kiffin for a little bit. But I have a feeling this is going to be a storyline that we talk about all college football playoff long. Okay, I told you about that bet that someone made before the NFL season. And number one, this person, before the season, if one of my friends would have come to me and said, hey, I bet $50,000 that this team is going to win the Super Bowl, I would have tackled them and checked them into some place to watch them because this would be crazy. But a bettor at BetMGM wagered $50,000 on the Chicago Bears to win the Super Bowl. Now, this happened before the season, and the Bears now, I believe, are tied for the first seed in the NFC right now, or at least leading in the NFC. And the Bears were 66-1 odds earlier this season. So if the Bears win a Super Bowl, the bet would win $3.3 million. $3.3 million. I can't even, how do you go and put down $50,000 on the Bears to win the Super Bowl? I'm a massive 49ers fan. I mean, unless I had just $50,000 lying around I didn't need to use, I still don't think I would bet on the 49ers. If maybe this person is just super rich, or maybe it was a group of people that pooled their money together, but $50,000 on the Bears is a bad bet. I gotta say, even now that we're coming to the end of the regular season, even now, I think the betting $50,000 on the Bears to win the Super Bowl is a long shot, because they still have to get through the playoffs, and I just don't know how a Caleb Williams led team will do in the playoffs. Do I think the Bears are for real? I think they're more for real than the Patriots. Katrina says about the betting, because you can afford to lose $50,000 like it's $20. I mean, I need to get in that. I need to get in that sort of headspace, or I need to get in that pay bracket, because geez, $50,000 is like nothing to these people. Again, it's the Bears. It's the Bears. Now, I thought the Bears would be better this year, and they have been. I didn't think that they would be as good as they have been. They've won a bunch of games in a row. Currently, the Bears are 30-1 Super Bowl odds, which is 7th best. So I will be thinking about this as the season goes along. I will be thinking about this Bears better putting down 50 grand on the Bears to win the Super Bowl. Currently, the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, are the clear Super Bowl favorites at BetMGM, which, as an NFC West guy, I can say that the Rams are good. The Rams are good, and I can't do anything about it because they look amazing, and so do the Seahawks. Seahawks look amazing. I think the only reason that the Rams are picked to go to the Super Bowl, or at least right now picked to go to the Super Bowl over the Seahawks, is because Matthew Stafford, is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. I think that's what it comes down to. They play in the NFC Championship, let's say. I think you would choose Matthew Stafford over Sam Darnold to lead your team any day.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Dominic says maybe it was Lane Kiffin who put the money down. That's funny. Lane Kiffin definitely has that money now. I mean, he already has the money, but after his LSU thing, he is 100% able to put down 50 grand like it was nothing. All right, so I've been thinking about my gripe all day long, and it's another one of those gripes that I cause. So I've been doing this thing, I don't know, the last month, where when my alarm goes off in the morning, it's either Lucky, my dog, waking me up, or it's my alarm waking me up. But my alarm goes off at 6:30 in the morning because I want to get up. I want to get a good start to the day. But in the last 3 weeks, I have been doing the snooze thing. And this morning, I woke up at my alarm at 6:30, but then I didn't wake up again after I went to bed until 8:30. And if you know me, you know that I'm a creature of habit, and you know that this is going to throw me off. So I can't do the sleep anymore. I can't sleep the alarm anymore. I can't shush it. I have to get out of bed when it's time to get out of bed. That's my gripe, is that I have been lazy lately, and I have just been continuing to sleep instead of getting up and doing what I need to do for the day ahead. Snooze is what I was looking for. Renee says, mine is at 6:08 a.m. Oh, Rod says, I love to snooze 3 times before I wake up and take a shower at 4:30 a.m. Dominic says, I'm up before 5 a.m. every day. Dang, you guys are on it. I remember when I worked in morning radio at a different station way back when, I had to get up at 3:30 in the morning every single day, and I would have to be at the station by 4:30, and then our show would start at 6. But I never really had a major issue with that because I was an early riser anyway. But man, when I was able to sleep in again, I realized how nice it is to have the afternoon show. KG says he's at work at 5. You guys are awesome. That's good stuff. I need to be more like all of you. They always say the early risers are the most successful people. We got a bunch of successful early risers that listen to the Skraby Show. I almost called it the Skraby Show. All right, that's it for me. I'll be back with you all tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone.